Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. Victor Newman will learn Newman Enterprises is under attack, so he'll shoot the Abbotts down with Matt Clark. At the GCAC, Billy Abbott and Sally Spectra will cross paths with Kane Ashby and Phyllis Summers. After Billy provokes Phyllis and launches a battle, Sally will scold him in the fate. Billy will intimately admit to Sally that he eavesdropped Phyllis and Kane talking about going after Newman Enterprises. Sally will worry that Billy thinks he should be the one to take down Victor rather, but Billy will contend he doesn't care as long as it happens. Once Phyllis heads to Crimson Lights with Kane, she'll bug him about when he's going to pull the detector on their plan. Kane will admit it's formally done, so Phyllis will get turned on allowing about their palm and will plant a kiss. That'll lead to Phyllis and Kane heading to his train, where they'll hit the wastes as they celebrate the AI program going after Newman Enterprises. Phyllis will wonder when they're going to officially take over the company, so Kane will assure her about the details coming laterally and contend she's going to get her heart's desire. At the Newman estate on Monday's YNR occasion, Victor will get a textbook that leaves him looking uneasy. Jack Abbott and Kyle Abbott will be staying for an answer on their mad offer, but Victor will rush out of the room to deal with Commodity. Jack will wonder what could be more important than handling Matt and will push Nikki Newman to talk some sense into Victor regarding their trade for the AI program. Nikki will question if Jack would really release Matt and leave her loved bones in jeopardy, but Jack will act like he indeed would and that it'd be Victor's fault. At one point, Kyle will have the Abbott security platoon take Matt out to the auto since he'll be so loud and offensive. Victor will ultimately return and contend that the Abbotts will get an answer when he's good and ready. Jack will give Victor until morning rather and leave with Kyle when Victor kicks them out. Subsequently, Victor will get someone from the Newman security platoon on the phone and push them to follow the Abbotts' auto. Victor wouldn't want Matt out of his security platoon's sight. At the Abbott manse, Jack and Kyle will realize Commodity Big must have rattled Victor for him to put off dealing with Matt, who'll be in a secure position with guards watching over him. Once Jack and Kyle assume this is about Newman Enterprises, Billy will call with updates on what he eavesdropped at the athletic club. After Billy spills about Kane and Phyllis targeting Newman, Sally will hear as he wishes he were the one going after Victor rather. Back at the estate, Victoria Newman will arrive after being summoned for a family meeting. Victor will tell Victoria, Nikki, and Adam Newman that the AI program has turned on its host, so Newman is being eviscerated as they speak. Matt Clark's is the name that's on everyone's lips. But indeed, as Genoa City scrambles to annihilate the trouble that he poses, Victor finds time to betray Jack, and Kane and Phyllis do their damnedest to do the same to the mustache. Read on for all the details. January 12th. Despite the fact that Jack delivered Matt Clark on a tableware server, Victor nevertheless double-crosses his longtime nemesis. Dude, there's feuding, and also there's just being a haul, and this is surely the ultimate. At the same time, Nikki confronts an adversary, but which one? She's accumulated a many over the times, after all. As they set out to take down the great and important Victor, Kane surprises Phyllis. Oh, snap. Kane and Phyllis spark a massive twist and may get the last laugh. January 13th. May be ignorant of the peril his zillions are in, Victor backs Kane into a corner. At Newman, Victoria and Adam are assigned with doing damage control. But is it too little, too late? Diane's had it up to then, so she eventually slaps Jack within claim. January 14th. Nikki and Victor fight about family business, but why? She knows he always thinks he's right no matter how wrong he is. Formerly again, Nick takes matters in his own hands. Should we remind him that didn't work out so hot last time? Torn between her love for Daniel and her fidelity to Mariah, Tessa's in quite a fix. Can Sharon help her make a final decision about her grueling circumstances? Since Billy infrequently comes clean of his own volition, Sally is left to force him to do so. Phyllis has no way had any problem justifying her conduct, so we do and imagine she'll trip up in the fewest when she's called upon to defend her rearmost shenanigans. Nick keeps a secret from Sharon. January 16th. Hopeless to end the Matt Clark situation formally and for all, Nick turns to former stepfather Jack for help. Speaking of the big bad, Noah makes a shocking discovery about his gal's psychotic hubby. We suspect she's barking up the wrong tree, but still, Diane gives it the OL Council try, pumping Michael for intel about Victor. Victor Newman's world will cock on its axis when he learns that Newman Enterprises is under attack, and in true Victor fashion, the disclosure won't just spark fear, it'll enkindle a ruthless chain response that leaves abettors betrayed, adversaries inspired, and Matt Clark formerly again at the center of a storm hanging to swallow Genoa City whole, because indeed as chaos brews beneath the face, Victor's instincts will tell him that survival demands immolation, computation, and yet another double cross, beginning with his shocking decision to shoot the Abbotts down with Matt Clark still veritably important in play, a move that appears collaborative on the face but reeks of commodity far more minatory underneath, especially as pressures poach away in City at the GCAC where Billy Abbott and Sally Spectra suddenly cross paths with Kane Ashby and Phyllis Summers, a unpredictable foursome whose combined history guarantees sparks, and indeed they fly when Billy, unfit to repel poking the bear, provokes Phyllis with sharp words and not-so-subtle lodgings that snappily escalate into a battle trickling with undetermined resentment and competitive fury, forcing Sally to step in after the dust settles and scold Billy for letting his impulses get the better of him. Formerly again, though her frustration softens when Billy latterly admits in private that his outburst wasn't just about old grievances but about commodity far more dangerous, because he eavesdropped Phyllis and Kane in hushed discussion conniving to go after Newman Enterprises itself, a disclosure that leaves Sally rattled and bothered that Billy's familiar preoccupation with Victor Newman is rearing its head again, egging her to question whether Billy intimately believes he should be the one taking Victor down, a dubitation Billy vehemently denies indeed as his eyes betray a flicker of craving, averring that he doesn't care who delivers the fatal blow as long as Victor eventually falls, a nipping admission that underscores just how deeply Victor's shadow looms over the Abbotts and how particular this vendetta remains, while across City Phyllis and Kane move their colluding into Crimson Lights, where Phyllis pesters Kane relentlessly about when he's eventually going to pull the detector on their plan, her desirousness slightly contained as she circles him like a bloodsucker seeing blood in the water, only for Kane to stun her by casually admitting that it's formally done, that the bus are in stir and there's no turning back now, a concession that sends exhilaration through Phyllis so violent it borders on intoxicating as she imagines Victor Newman brought to his knees, egging her to plant a bold, impulsive kiss on Kane in festivity, a kiss that snappily leads them down from prying eyes and toward Kane's train, where they hit the wastes in a reckless, triumphant festivity of the AI program they've unleashed against Newman Enterprises, their passion fueled not just by desire but by the intoxicating pledge of power, palm, and vengeance, with Phyllis latterly wondering audibly when they'll officially take over the company they're so gleefully dismembering, only for Kane to assure her that the details will come latterly and that tolerance will be awarded, promising with quiet confidence that she's going to get her heart's desire, words that only consolidate Phyllis's conviction that aligning with Kane was the smartest move she's made in times. While back at the Newman estate on Monday's occasion, Victor receives a textbook that wipes the trim confidence from his face and leaves him visibly uneasy, a rare crack in his armor that doesn't go unnoticed by Jack and Kyle Abbott, who are staying for an answer on their Matt Clark offer and grow decreasingly suspicious when Victor suddenly rushes out of the room to deal with whatever critical extremity has just erupted, egging Jack to bristle and wonder audibly what could conceivably be more important than handling Matt, especially given the stakes, and pushing Nikki Newman to talk some sense into Victor about accepting their trade for the AI program, only for Nikki to challenge Jack in return, questioning whether he'd truly release Matt and leave her loved bones in jeopardy, a moral line Jack insists he's willing to cross, coldly asserting that if anyone gets hurt, it'll be Victor's fault for refusing the deal, a tense standoff that only worsens when Matt himself becomes so loud and offensive that Kyle orders the Abbott security platoon to haul him out to the auto, emphasizing just how unpredictable and willful the man has come, before Victor eventually returns and insists that the Abbotts will get an answer when he's good and ready, daring Jack to challenge his authority, a challenge Jack meets by giving Victor until morning and storming out with Kyle when Victor kicks them out, a move that feels like retreat but is anything but, because once they're gone Victor incontinently gets someone from Newman Security on the phone and orders them to follow the Abbott's auto, making it clear that he wouldn't allow Matt Clark out of his sight for indeed a moment, revealing that whatever trouble is brewing over Newman Enterprises has elevated Matt from log-rolling chip to implicit liability, And at the Abbott manse Jack and Kyle snappily realize that commodity massive must have rattled Victor for him to delay dealing with Matt, attesting their reservations that this is about Newman Enterprises when Billy calls with updates from the athletic club, discovering everything he eavesdropped about Kane and Phyllis targeting Newman, with Sally hearkening in silence as Billy formally again admits he wishes he were the one going after Victor, a dangerous concession that hints at fractures forming within the Abbott camp indeed as the stakes rise. While back at the estate Victoria Newman arrives after being summoned for a family meeting and finds Victor grim and uncharacteristically blunt as he tells Victoria, Nikki, and Adam that the AI program has turned on its host and Newman Enterprises is being eviscerated as they speak. A stunner disclosure that sends shockwaves through the family as they scramble to comprehend the compass of the damage, with Matt Clark's name suddenly on everyone's lips as the likely mastermind or catalyst of the catastrophe. Indeed, as Genoa City races to annihilate the trouble he poses, ignorant that Victor is formally conniving his coming treason, because despite Jack delivering Matt Clark on a tableware server, Victor still finds time to double-cross his longtime nemesis in a move that crosses the line from strategic feuding into sheer ruthlessness, all while Nikki confronts an adversary of her own, however which one remains tantalizingly unclear given the long list she's accumulated over the times. And as Kane and Phyllis set out to take down the great and important Victor, Kane surprises Phyllis with a twist that may give them the upper hand, driving a massive shock that could leave them with the last laugh. Indeed, as on January 13th Victor, maybe ignorant of just how dire his fiscal pitfall truly is, backs Kane into a corner in a high-stakes power play that risks boomeranging spectacularly, forcing Victoria and Adam to handle damage control at Newman Enterprises and desperately try to stop the bleeding before it's too late, while Diane Jenkins Abbott reaches her breaking point and eventually slaps Jack with an claim that threatens to upend their marriage if he doesn't change course, a particular extremity unfolding alongside commercial warfare, followed on January 14th by a fierce fight between Nikki and Victor over family business that exposes old injuries and deep frustrations. Because Nikki knows better than anyone that Victor always thinks he's right no matter how wrong he is, a verity Nick seems to forget as he formally again takes matters into his own hands despite once disasters, while away Tessa finds herself torn between her love for Daniel and her fidelity to Mariah, trapped in an emotional fix that may bear Sharon's guidance to resolve, as Sally grows decreasingly suspicious of Billy's evasiveness and forces him to come clean since honesty infrequently comes from him freely. Phyllis brazenly justifies her rearmost shenanigans without missing a beat when called to defend them, and Nick keeps a secret from Sharon that could have explosive consequences, all leading into January 16th when a hopeless Nick turns to former stepfather Jack for help ending the Matt Clark situation formally and for all, indeed as Noah makes a shocking discovery about his gal's psychotic hubby that threatens to open yet another dark chapter. And Diane, maybe barking up the wrong tree but determined nevertheless, pumps Michael Baldwin for intel about Victor, proving that in Genoa City no alliance is safe, no treason off limits, and no palm guaranteed as Victor Newman fights to save his conglomerate while the walls near in from every direction at formerly. As the fallout from Victor Newman's stunning disclosure continues to ripple outward, Genoa City braces itself for a war that now spans boardrooms, bedrooms, and pedigrees. Because the AI program tearing through Newman Enterprises isn't just figures on a screen or lines of corrupted law, it's a living agony erected from times of grievances, ambition, and unbounded pride, and Victor, despite his bravado, knows this is unlike anything he's faced before, a consummation that hardens his resoluteness indeed as it forces him into innocently void home formerly again, starting with his decision to still sabotage Jack Abbott despite accepting Matt Clark into the Abbott guardianship arrangement, because Victor no way truly intended to play fair and the moment Jack and Kyle walk out of the estate believing they've gained influence, Victor is formally setting bus and stir to undermine them, instructing his security platoon not only to tail the Abbott's auto but to collect every vulnerability Jack has ever exposed, every secret alliance, every fiscal crack that could be exploited if necessary, a nipping memorial that to Victor Newman, indeed cooperation is just another battleground tactic, while at the Abbott manse the atmosphere grows decreasingly tense as Matt Clark is locked down in a secure position, guarded around the timepiece, his trim taunts echoing through the halls as he needles Jack and Kyle with thinly veiled pitfalls and cryptic reflections about how Newman Enterprises is only the morning, provoking Kyle's fury and Jack's growing dread as they begin to suspect that Matt knows far further than he's letting on. Reservations that consolidate when Billy's call confirms their worst fears, because if Kane Ashby and Phyllis Summers are truly behind the attack, also this isn't just a commercial strike, it's a particular vendetta times in the timber, one that could fluently helical out of control and take innocent people down. With it, especially as Billy, fueled by bitterness and remorse, continues to entrust in Sally about his desire to see Victor fall, confessing that every time Victor slips through the cracks it feels like a particular failure, a crack that no way completely heals, egging Sally to advise him that preoccupation is exactly how Victor wins, by dragging his adversaries down to his position and beating them with experience. A warning Billy hears but doesn't completely absorb as his eyes drift toward the future he imagines without Victor Newman brewing over it, while away Phyllis and Kane lounge in the afterglow of their triumph aboard Kane's train, their festivity pigmented with expectation as Phyllis paces the small space, formerly conniving the coming phase, visioning press conferences, power shifts, and Victor's public demotion, her confidence soaring as Kane cautions tolerance, reminding her that the AI program's true brilliance lies in its capability to strike Newman from the inside out without leaving egregious fingerprints, assuring her that when the time comes to take over, it'll look less like an achievement and more like an ineluctable collapse, words that exhilaration Phyllis indeed as they plant seeds of desirousness, because Phyllis Summers has no way been known for staying still in the murk, a excrescence that could yet prove dangerous, particularly as Victor, back at the estate, rallies his inner circle for damage control, assigning Victoria and Adam the insolvable task of plugging the hemorrhaging losses while he focuses on relating the architect behind the attack, a move that frustrates Victoria, who argues they need translucency and decisive action rather than secretiveness and paranoia, only for Victor to snap that vacillation is a luxury they cannot go, not when their adversaries are formally inside the gates, a sentiment Adam echoes reluctantly as he throws himself into the figures, snappily realizing that the AI has been designed not just to siphon finances but to anticipate countermeasures, conforming faster than any mortal-led response, forcing Adam to defy the unsettling possibility that this creation may truly be beyond their control, a fear that keeps him awake long after the family meeting ends, while Nikki, shaken but resolute, begins her own disquisition into who might be pulling the strings, defying an old adversary whose identity remains nebulous but whose trouble feels each too real, suggesting that the battle lines are far more involved than Victor realizes, as alliances shift and once since resurface, setting the stage for January 13 when Victor, determined to recapture the upper hand, corners Kane Ashby with subtle pitfalls and veiled warnings, trying to blackjack him into backing off without revealing how much he formerly knows, an adventure that nearly pays off until Kane surprises Phyllis with a twist that reaffirms his confidence, revealing that Victor's attempts at compulsion only prove how effective their plan has been, steeling them to push further and driving a massive development that could leave Victor exposed in ways he no way anticipated. Indeed, as Victoria and Adam scramble to manage the fallout at Newman Enterprises, issuing statements, restructuring divisions, and still laying off staff to stem the losses, measures that feel decreasingly futile as the AI continues to evolve, raising the question of whether it's formally too late to save the conglomerate, while Diane Jenkins Abbott, fed up with Jack's constant trap in Newman drama, eventually issues an claim that forces Jack to defy the cost of his preoccupation, demanding that he choose between immortalizing a war that no way ends and conserving the family he's fought so hard to rebuild, a choice that weighs heavily on Jack as he watches Kyle struggle with the pressure of guarding Matt and keeping the Abbotts safe. Pressures that only consolidate on January 14 when Nikki and Victor clash over family business in a heated argument that exposes deep fractures in their marriage, with Nikki criminating Victor of prioritizing power over people and Victor returning that survival requires hard choices, an exchange that leaves both shaken and Nick decreasingly scarified, egging him to take matters into his own hands yet again despite the disastrous consequences of his once interventions, a decision that could either save the family or push them further into chaos, while Tessa wrestles with her own moral dilemma, torn between her love for Daniel and her fidelity to Mariah as she seeks Sharon's guidance, illustrating how indeed those on the fringe of the Newman-Abbott war are being pulled into its gravitational pull, as Sally eventually forces Billy to defy his secrets, demanding honesty not just about Victor but about what Billy truly wants for his Future, a battle that leaves Billy exposed and uncertain, while Phyllis, unapologetic as ever, defends her conduct with razor-sharp sense when challenged, averring that Victor deserves everything that's coming to him, indeed as Nick still keeps a secret from Sharon that could explode at any moment. Setting the stage for January 16 when despair drives Nick to seek Jack's help in ending the Matt Clark situation formally and for all, a parlous alliance that underscores just how dire effects have come, especially as Noah stumbles upon a shocking verity about his gal's psychotic hubby that threatens to open yet another front in Genoa City's ongoing battles, and Diane, induced that knowledge is power, presses Michael Baldwin for intel on Victor despite the odds, proving that no bone is happy to sit actively by as the storm enthusiasms, because as Newman Enterprises teeters on the point, Matt Clark remains the wild card everyone fears yet cannot completely control, a living symbol of how far the characters of Genoa City are willing to go to win, betray, and survive, icing that the coming days will test commitment, shatter visions, and review the veritably meaning of Palm in a city where no secret stays buried ever.